Hello and welcome to the Stronghold Digital Mining Daily Update. Today is Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. So this morning, Stronghold Digital Mining had the honor of ringing the opening bell on the NASDAQ exchange. Greg gave some prepared remarks, and then members of the Stronghold Digital Mining management team, as well as honored guests, stood up on stage and cheered as the NASDAQ exchange opened for trading. A little bit later in the day, Stronghold Digital Mining hosted a investor/analyst day on the second floor of the NASDAQ market site, and that went about as well as I could have expected. In some ways, it even exceeded my expectations. And that's saying a lot because I do tend to sometimes have very high internal expectations for a variety of different things. It went really, really well. Now, I suspect that a replay of that investor/analyst presentation will be posted to the Stronghold Digital Mining website. Certainly the slide presentation has been posted, and I'm going to link to it in the description to this video. And to the extent I see that the actual video portion has been posted, I will link to that as well. But, what I thought I'd do, because this was like a very, very lengthy afternoon, to put it mildly, and a lot of information was discussed. As investors, as co-owners of this business, right, what we universally care about at this juncture is really the stock price, right? It is safe to assume that, yes, everything that was presented today reinforces, our not just belief at this point, but really it's like a provable fact that the beneficial use hash that is produced at Scrubgrass and at Panther Creek is capable of capturing carbon in the field. And the test results have been very, very good. Now, hey, do you just sort of hit it out of the ballpark on the first try? Rarely, right? So yeah, there is going to be some minor iteration to see if we can improve this process even more. But it appears, based on the preliminary testing, that our ash, right, the beneficial use hash, is capable, and is actually not even just capable, it's actually doing it. It's absorbing carbon from the air like a sponge. Now, we also have a better understanding of how these carbolith machines operate. I want to save a more technical description of that, perhaps for a separate broadcast. I do want to keep zooming in, though, and really keeping the focus here, though, on the stock price, okay? This was really, really compelling news and information that was shared today. The panel presentation I thought was phenomenal. I do wish, had I been able to wave a magic wand, that I could have magically invited the coverage analysts, many of whom were in attendance in person, to come up to the stage and for us to ask the coverage analysts one by one, state your name, state the firm that you're with, and please, in your own words, tell us why, first and foremost, why is it that Stronghold Digital Mining trades at such a shockingly low valuation relative to its peers, right? Why do you think that is? And then the second question is, what do you believe Stronghold Digital Mining should do to help close that gap? Now, the reason why I'm suggesting these questions should be asked of coverage analysts is because ultimately they may be in a better position given the fact that they sort of sit outside of the company. They're much more involved with the investor community, right? With institutional investors, with Wall Street as a whole. Hey, why is it, for example, that, let's fill in the blank. Hey, you as a coverage analyst have a $20 price target on shares of Stronghold Digital Mining, yet shares are trading as of right now, just under $5 a share. What's going on from your perspective as to why that type of discrepancy exists in the market relative to your price target? I think that would be a very interesting answer, and it could form the basis of some action steps that perhaps Stronghold Digital Mining can take to close that gap. Now, this is something that did come up a little bit during the presentation itself. And in Greg's words, hey, Greg Beard, right, Chief Executive Officer of Stronghold Digital Mining, he's up on stage and he said, hey, and I'm paraphrasing, hey, we think, right, that we are grossly undervalued compared to our peers. At another point, he mentions we trade at an exponential discount. We trade at an exponential discount, right, to our peers. And so Greg hypothesized that one issue could be that we have a lot of fixed assets. So by contrast, right, you have some publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies that are extremely asset light. It's almost like, hey man, we don't want to have any assets. We almost want to just be like a piece of paper, with like nothing, like, as light as a feather. Whereas by contrast, Stronghold Digital Mining has a lot of fixed assets. Now, it's those fixed assets that, right, give rise to our ability to announce a carbon capture initiative that at this juncture is going to move forward, right? If we had no assets or like minimal assets, that option wouldn't exist. So maybe that's a factor. It's worth bearing in mind that, having these power assets in particular give us the optionality to use the electricity that we produce, right? And to not just like use it internally, but to sell it to the PJM grid. So that's yet another source of revenue, some optionality that some of our peers do not have. And Greg points out, hey, we are choosing to be more conservative. And yeah, hey, look, I mean, a company could organize itself in such a manner that, hey man, you're pretty much putting all your chips like on red, right, or or on black, so to speak, and rolling, right, spinning that roulette wheel, and you're really kind of gambling on hash price. Hey, look, we're gambling on hash price too. I mean, it's not like we have no chips on that table. We have quite a few chips on that table, but there still remains this dislocation, right? This valuation gap, and I've said this before, and I think it's probably worth saying it again, that more and more, I think that has to be my focus too in terms of these broadcasts. Really just, and I've been kind of doing that, like focusing a lot more on the stock price, and perhaps pulling back a little bit from talking about the minutia of like operations and maintenance and what's going on kind of behind the scenes. Because at the end of the day, what we can all agree upon is that, look, we can have the best technology, the best operations, the lowest cost. We could be doing everything right. But if our stock price continues to trade as it's trading right now, that's not going to be a very satisfying conclusion to this story, right? As much pride as I certainly personally feel now, and will continue to feel for Stronghold Digital Mining doing what it's doing here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I mean, I think all of us as investors would like to see a return on that investment, right? So yeah, the stock price is a big deal. From my perspective, yeah, okay, sure, the fixed assets may be a factor. I think it could be really, really useful if we start to, churn out positive adjusted EBITDA. Dare I almost say that, positive adjusted EBITDA has to be sort of this focusing ideal, right? This focusing mission that, like everything else that we're doing, be it carbon capture, be it toggling between, grid sales and mining Bitcoin and lowering costs, like all of that has to serve the so-called master of positive adjusted EBITDA, and that no matter what we do and no matter what we say, if at the end of the day, we are not producing positive adjusted EBITDA, I don't know that our stock price is going to have the fuel that it needs to truly soar. Yes, it is true, we do trade in sympathy with the price of Bitcoin. And, hey, what Bitcoin giveth, Bitcoin can taketh away. And we've seen that recently, right? We've seen a setback in the stock price. Also true for practically every other publicly traded Bitcoin mining company. Okay, but I from my perspective, one thing that we can definitely do is make sure that we are doing everything possible to really become cash flow positive on a consistent basis. We finished 2022 cash flow positive. I don't know that a lot of other publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies can say that. We are still in 2023. I do know that Q4 2023, right, this final quarter that we're in right now, the revenue inputs have definitely been there. It'll be a question as to whether or not we could put this all together to potentially end the year on a positive note, right? And then maybe that sets the foundation for what can hopefully be a very productive start to 2024. But I want to address you and your concern, because I hear from you a lot, right? And the you I'm referring to, right, is sort of like the generalized community of investors who own shares of Stronghold Digital Mining. And ultimately, right, the number that a lot of us look at is the stock price. And I am not immune from feeling a degree of frustration, right, with the stock price and its performance. That does not imply a dissatisfaction with the hard work that's being done at Scrubgrass and Panther Creek. It doesn't imply dissatisfaction with management or anything like that. Okay, what's happening with our stock price, arguably, is something that seems to be correctable if we just started trading more, at an average of our peers. Okay, in which case, from the one slide, I mean, we'd be, up above like about $20 a share or so. I could pull it up right now, but, I think in the interest of kind of keeping this somewhat succinct, I won't do so. But, again, you look at the slide presentation, look at the section that specifically talks about our valuation as a company as compared to our peers. And, and again, that's based on enterprise value, by the way. That takes into consideration the company's debt. It's not just like market cap alone. No, this is, taking into consideration the debt as well. So there clearly seems to be a disconnect. I am confident that gap is going to close. It has to close. I'm committed to closing that gap, even if it means, if somebody said to me, hey man, you got to come out with like 10 broadcasts a day for like 6 months straight, and then the stock will close the gap, I will do that then, okay? I mean, I'm not convinced that'll actually do the trick, but I do think that every little bit helps, okay? And it can't just be me. It can't just be Stronghold Digital Mining's management, right? It has to be maybe you as well, right? Maybe you have your circle of influence, and you say, hey, you know what? I'm looking at this objectively. It looks like there's this one Bitcoin mining company that's trading at a gross distorted value compared to its peers. Hey, this isn't investment advice, right? Do your own due diligence, but check it out. And you tell me what the issue may be. Because look, objectively, anybody who looks at this, the company is trading at a substantial and at an exponential discount to its peers. I mean, that's like a kind of like a provable fact. Just look at the slide presentation in today's presentation, right? Like in the, when you dig into it, look at that one section that goes into the valuation numbers. I mean, that's like an objective truth. I mean, right? It's not like an opinion. It's a mathematical fact. So, again, I think if we all do our part to at least get somebody to ask themselves, hey, if I'm looking for a value play within the publicly traded Bitcoin mining ecosystem, hey, maybe I should independently, right? I'm not taking investment advice from somebody, but it's just I'm doing my own due diligence. I'm going to look at Stronghold Digital Mining. Maybe I'll look at this presentation. I'll look at that chart and I'll say, hey, you know what? Maybe there is something to be said for this company being exponentially, undervalued compared to its peers. So, this is that's probably the most challenging thing that we, right, collectively as shareholders, as co-owners of this business, it almost feels like capturing carbon from the atmosphere is easy as compared to figuring out how do we capture the value that seems to be missing in our equity price as compared to our peers. So with all of that said, I'm going to stay positive because all the news that was released today was very positive. We're going to strive to be great, and we're going to see each other again tomorrow.